Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Andrzej Świeży, and today I would like to share with you a certain secret. In the field of religious studies, we do not know what is it that we are studying. How else would it be possible that I am on my third year and I have yet to hear a full, complete answer to the question, what is religion? And my 10-minute presentation will also not answer this question, because how do you expect me to be smarter than all of my professors combined? Like, really now. Instead, I hope I will not waste your 10 minutes. I hope to deepen your own understanding of religion. I hope that by the time we reach the conclusion, you will be as confused and also intrigued as I am by this question. So to do so, we will look first at the etymology of the word religion. We will look at some examples, some definitions, and then the conclusion, where I will just leave you to ponder the question on your own. So to start, etymology. You might have heard that this word comes from religare, to tie, to bind. Often an explanation is given that this somehow signifies a person becoming reconnected with God. You might have heard this explanation, but however, it is factually wrong from the point of view of linguistics. Religion comes from not religare, but religere. And what does religere mean? It means literally to recollect. But how are we to understand this? What are we recollecting? You have to think of the ancient Greeks and their beliefs, because that's where this word comes from. And ancient Greeks believed in gods who sometimes would give signs to humans. And upon receiving such a sign, a human should recollect their thoughts. They should reconsider their decision, because maybe they made a wrong decision and now they should, choose again. And I hope you can see how far removed is this from our modern understanding of the word religion. It really doesn't translate well, does it? So the analysis of etymology didn't really help us with understanding religion. So we have to try a different approach here. And this will be the definition given by Edward Taylor, a 19th century founding father of anthropology. And what did he say? He defined religion as belief in spiritual beings. And please note here that he said spiritual beings, not God, not gods, just spiritual beings. Any supernatural entity at all will suffice for something to be called a religion. So let's take this definition, let's remember it, and look at some concrete examples. And to start with something simple, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. Are they religions? I suppose all of you think that yes, they are, but let's think back to Edward Taylor's definition. And, are they? Yes, they are, because they all posit a supernatural entity, in this case, God. It would be quite nice here to just end the presentation and say, we've solved the problem, there is no problem, why are we here? But you know, we cannot overlook 1/3 of the world's population that is neither atheist nor a follower of any of those three religions. And as I hope you know, 1/3 of the world's population is quite a big number, so we still have a problem. Just to give just two examples, Buddhism and Confucianism. And as a side note, the previous presentation by Katerina was quite helpful in explaining why those three categories shown here are falling apart. They just stop making sense. They've made sense here, God, sacred text, and central figure. Now they make much less sense. Buddhism and Confucianism. Think back to the definition by Edward Taylor, that religion is the belief in spiritual beings. So to answer the question, is Buddhism a religion? Let's ask a question. Is Buddha a spiritual being? And this is a very hard question because first you have to specify which Buddhist tradition do you mean. There's no single Buddhism. So for example, in Japanese Shinshu Buddhism, there is a belief in Buddha Amitabha, who is a spiritual being, very much so. He resides in a place called Western Heaven. You can also pray to him. You can offer offerings, to him, and you can expect his help, according to Buddhists, at least. So yes, Japanese Shinshu Buddhism would be a religion by the definition of Edward Taylor. However, on the other hand, there is a more popular in the West, Japanese Zen Buddhism, which believes in no supernatural being whatsoever. So according to Taylor's definition, some Buddhist traditions are religions and some Buddhist traditions are not religions. And this is not a very satisfying answer. To look at our second example, Confucianism, well, surely Confucius is not a supernatural being. By everyone, he's recognized as a philosopher. That's why Confucianism is often considered a philosophy in the West. So yes, Confucius is not a spiritual being, not a supernatural entity. Why would this ever be considered a religion? Why am I even considering this? Why is it on the slide? Well, the problem here is that in today's China, there are temples to Confucius, and I don't mean any university of Confucius, I mean literal temples where you can go in and sacrifice an animal for Confucius. So how can there be such a thing as a non-religious Confucian ritual? How can there be such a thing as a non-religious temple where you give offerings to, someone, even if Confucius is by everyone, by all the Chinese, considered a philosopher and a human? This leads me to the conclusion that Edward Taylor's definition of religion is inadequate because we simply cannot deal with more religions than three of them, and there are thousands. So let's look at something else. Let's look at definition by Emile Durkheim, a famous French sociologist. This definition is more comprehensive. It's not just about spiritual beings. Here he underlines beliefs, practices, and moral community. He was a sociologist, so of course he will not forget the communal aspect of religion. Please also note here that here we have sacred things, not spiritual beings. There's no talk of course, God or gods. Just sacred things. And what is sacred is defined by the community, not by a scientist. And according to this definition, Buddhism and Confucianism are religions because they have something sacred, something very important to them. They have beliefs and practices and a moral community. However, we still have a problem. It would be very nice to just end the presentation here, say, well, this is a better definition of religion, let's just go home. However, accidentally or not, this definition does include Americans' ardent patriotism. Please think of the 4th of July. Please think, don't be biased, just think of the 4th of July and the practice of 4th of July. Think of the American flag, which cannot be desecrated without causing a moral uproar. And by definition, you can only desecrate something that was sacred in the first place. Try burning an American flag in America and see how that goes. They also have a belief, I'm not saying all Americans, obviously, but some Americans believe that America is #1 in the world, and they don't mean statistics, it just is. and yeah, belief in the Constitution, the 10 Amendments, and it goes on. So Emile Durkheim's definition of religion will include this, but we do not want to include this in our understanding of religions, because how can you put in the same category the fireworks on the 4th of July and also the Holy Communion of the Catholic Church? Those are two very different things. We cannot mix them together in one category and analyze them scientifically as if they were the same. So we have to keep going, keep looking for our better definition. But because of this fundamental problem in religious studies that it has been going for so long, and we still haven't found something that everyone agrees on that is a good definition of religion, there have been some voices of dissent, such as Jonathan Smith, who very controversially said religion is not a native term, it is a term created by scholars. And he is correct here in saying that religion is not a native term. In some languages and in some cultures, there is no word for religion. When it has to be translated from English to their language, it gets translated as something such as tradition or morality or teachings. An example of this is the Japanese language. So we're not talking here about some, ethnic peoples who are completely shut off from the internet. We're talking here about the Japanese, who, yes, they have a Wikipedia page about religion, and it is quite interesting. So what are we to do here? Well, this is still this is still going on in the religious studies. We still haven't answered this. So I can only finish this presentation the same way I have started it. I will ask you, what do you think? What is religion? Thank you for your attention.